Didn't I say I'd be back at the end of the week?
The end of the week is Friday.
The end of the week is Friday. Saturday's not the end of the week anymore, huh?
Jack, you said you'd be back Tuesday.
What difference does it make? What do you think I've been doing?
Trust me. That's all I can tell you about my business. Okay?
Michael, why did you come here?
When it's gone and you have no prospects of it in the future, it's very upsetting.
Those men, they hollowed out my soul, leaving wounds that will never heal, were the final words of Diane Keaton, the legendary Hollywood actress, before she passed away on October 11th, 2025. The entire film world was stunned, not only because they lost an icon, but also because of what she revealed before leaving, about youth, love, and the pains that fame could not conceal. She had once been adored by Al Pacino, admired by Woody Allen, and even pursued by Keanu Reeves. Yet Diane never married in her lifetime, because she had witnessed Pacino's infidelity and having children with someone else, while Keanu Reeves only saw her as a mother figure. After all the glitz and glamour, was Diane left with nothing but loneliness? Or, as she once said, "I choose freedom because love is sometimes a prison." In today's video, let us delve into the untold secrets of Diane Keaton's love life to understand why she chose lifelong solitude. For over half a century in the spotlight, Diane Keaton remained one of Hollywood's most unique actresses, not only because of her talent, but also because of her choice to live differently. While many of her contemporaries married, had children, and retreated from public life, Diane remained alone in her sunlit Los Angeles home, where only paintings, books, and old music kept her company. Many were curious about this unusual decision, and she only revealed it in her later years. It was during a quiet afternoon in Los Angeles, in a small wooden house on a Beverly Hills hill, where Diane Keaton had lived for nearly the last 3 decades of her life. The house was filled with sunlight, walls covered with black and white photographs, her mother, childhood in Santa Ana, days on the set of Annie Hall, and a blurred image from The Godfather. Diane wore a white sweater, her silver hair tied neatly, her voice still gentle but raspier than before. When the young reporter asked why she had never married, Diane laughed, a shy smile reminiscent of the 25-year-old girl who had enchanted so many men. Yet in her eyes flickered a thin veil of sadness. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, Diane gazed out the window at the garden, where lavender swayed lightly in the breeze. A long pause followed. The reporter later recounted that it felt as if she were speaking not to him, but to her own past. Finally, Diane smiled, softly saying, "I have loved so deeply that I could not love anyone else. Perhaps that's why I never married." The reporter, despite having dozens of questions prepared, did not dare interrupt. He only observed her slightly trembling hands, fondling a now cold cup of tea as if each sip drew her back into distant memories. Diane continued, her voice growing softer. "I think each of us has someone like that. Someone we cannot forget, no matter how many years pass, no matter how many others we meet. And sometimes it's because of them that we never take another step forward." Then she stood up, walked to the wooden bookshelf filled with scripts and journals. From the top, she took down a worn brown leather notebook, frayed at the edges. She did not open it, only placed it gently on the table, then said, "Everything I ever wrote about him is in here. I once thought I would burn it, but I couldn't. Some things, if erased, mean erasing part of yourself as well." The afternoon sunlight fell upon her face, a face once celebrated by all of Hollywood, now marked with the wrinkles of time and memory. For a moment, Diane was silent, then chuckled lightly. "I do not regret loving, only that I could not hold on to that love longer." No one in the room that day needed to ask anything further. They all understood. The person she spoke of, the one who made Diane Keaton unable to marry, unable to forget, and unable to forgive, still lived somewhere in her heart, like a shadow that would never fade. So, who was that man? The one who made Diane Keaton, a smart, independent, and vibrant woman, choose solitude for her entire life? Who could make a woman who had walked under hundreds of stage lights, celebrated by all of Hollywood, hold an image in her heart that would not fade? Who was it that made Diane, even past 80, still tremble and gaze into the distance, as if searching for a face through the mist of memory? Let us look back at the list of Diane Keaton's most passionate lovers. First, the man who had the greatest influence in her life, none other than her 15-year romance with Al Pacino. One evening in 1971, under the dim lights of a Harlem restaurant in New York, Al Pacino and Diane Keaton met for the first time. They were there because of The Godfather, the film that would bring them both into Hollywood's spotlight. Pahada, 31, with deep eyes and a lost orphan appearance, played Michael Corleone. Diane Keaton, 25, with a radiant smile and sharp intelligence, was Kay Adams, Michael's gentle wife on screen. That evening, amidst the laughter of the film crew, Keaton was smitten by Pacino at first sight. In her memoir, Then Again, she wrote, "Al was charming, funny, never stopped talking. There was something in him both genius and mad, and oh, he was handsome." But Pacino, naturally shy with women, only smiled and kept his distance. At that time, they were just colleagues, unaware of how fate would draw them closer. 3 years later, when The Godfather Part 2 began filming, everything changed. Long days on set, intense scenes between Michael and Kay ignited a flame of real-life love. Pacino and Keaton began dating, living near each other in Beverly Hills, sharing endless conversations about films, theater, and big dreams. Keaton called Pacino the most entertaining man she had ever met, and Pacino, in his memoir Sonny Boy, admitted, "With Diane, I found rare peace. They loved passionately, but their relationship was not always smooth." Heavy filming schedules, Pacino busy with Serpico, Keaton with Annie Hall, often kept them apart, making the relationship a cycle of breakups and reconciliations. Their love was a fusion of art and passion. Pacino sent love letters from Rome, where he was filming, writing sweet words that made Keaton's heart flutter. She, with intelligence and sensitivity, helped Pacino perfect his acting, while he always admired her talent. They appeared together in 3 parts of The Godfather, and every time they faced the camera, the chemistry between Michael and Kay seemed to reflect their real-life love. But Pacino, with his eccentric nature and fear of commitment, always kept an invisible distance. Keaton once said, "We had wonderful moments, but Al was an unpredictable genius. Sometimes he seemed to be in another world." Tension crept in when Keaton yearned for a stable relationship. She dreamed of a home, a family, while Pacino, who had once declared marriage is a nightmare, always avoided it. In his memoir, he admitted, "I'm not good at pursuing women. If they don't take the initiative, I stop." Keaton tried very hard to maintain the relationship, but frequent separations due to work and differences in desire exhausted them both. She once shared with people, "I was crazy about him, but loving Al was never easy." Love letters from Rome were not enough to fill the void when they couldn't see each other. The climax of the story came in 1990 when both completed The Godfather Part 3. Keaton, then over 40, issued an ultimatum: "Marry me or we end it." Pacino, despite loving her deeply, could not overcome his fear of marriage. He chose to break up. Keaton later said, "I wanted a man not easily obtained, but I also didn't want to force Al." The nearly 2-decade-long love, full of breakups and reconciliations, ended quietly. They parted ways without scandal or resentment. Only beautiful memories and a hint of regret remained. After the breakup, Pacino and Keaton maintained a special friendship. They didn't contact each other often, but whenever they met again, time seemed never to have passed. In 2017, at Keaton's AFI Lifetime Achievement Award ceremony, Pacino stood on stage, gazing at her warmly and said, "Dee, you are a great artist. I will love you forever." Those words moved the audience, and Keaton only smiled, as if both understood that they had shared something irreplaceable. Pacino continued his career with iconic roles, from Scent of a Woman to The Irishman, but his personal life remained tumultuous. Pacino never married, though he had children with multiple women, Jan Tarrant, Beverly D'Angelo, and more recently Noor Al-Fala, 54 years his junior. Yet none of them replaced Keaton in his heart. He once said in his memoir, "Diane gave me comfort I couldn't find anywhere else." Friends revealed he regretted not proposing to Keaton, calling her the love of his life. This relationship left Diane disheartened, losing faith in love. But that was not the end. Alongside Pacino, another man had been Keaton's soulmate for 4 decades, Woody Allen.
A sensation playing the title role in 1977's Annie Hall, a Best Picture winner from writer-director co-star Woody Allen. Her character's floppy hats and wardrobe making the Annie Hall look a fashion phenomenon.
They first met on a New York afternoon in 1969, in the rehearsal room for the play Play It Again, Sam, when Woody Allen first saw Diane Keaton. He, then a director and comedian with a shy smile and witty stories, was looking for a lead actress. Keaton entered with a quirky look: baggy men's jeans, oversized shirt, messy hair. She captivated Allen with her talent and natural charm, leaving him staggered. In his memoir, Apropos of Nothing, Allen wrote, "She was like a beautiful version of Huckleberry Finn, charming, funny, and entirely original." They began dating immediately after the audition, and the romance quickly became an inspiration for cinematic masterpieces. Their love blossomed amid theater rehearsals and strolls through Manhattan. Allen, shy with women, took a week to ask Keaton out for their first dinner. But once begun, they were like two perfect pieces of a puzzle, sharing a passion for comedy, life philosophy, and endless conversations about art. They moved in together in Allen's luxurious New York penthouse, where Keaton often wore messy clothes and laughed at his silly jokes. Allen called her his first muse, the one who inspired him to create intelligent, eccentric, yet lively female characters. They worked together on Play It Again, Sam on Broadway, and later the 1972 film version. That love was not only romantic, but also sparked creativity. Allen confessed, "I make films for one audience only, Diane Keaton." The years together were filled with laughter and artistic passion. They filmed Sleeper, 1973, where Keaton played an eccentric scientist in a futuristic world, and Love and Death, 1975, a satirical film on the Russian War with witty philosophical dialogues. Allen often recalled private moments, a Thanksgiving poker game with the Keaton family, or European trips where they debated Nietzsche over dinner. Keaton, in her memoir Then Again, described Allen as an indestructible cockroach, resilient, humorous, yet sometimes exasperating with his sharp sarcasm. They tormented each other with failures, but it was precisely that honesty that deepened their love. Allen once told people in 1975, "Diane is one of the finest natural comedians I've ever seen." But behind the smiles were simmering conflicts. Allen, with his fear of commitment and a life tied to New York, did not want to leave his beloved city. Keaton, on the other hand, longed to explore Hollywood and a broader career. She often felt trapped by their mutual dependence, a relationship that sometimes felt more like ambiguous dependency than free love. Keaton admitted they often argued over trivial matters, such as Allen's eccentric lifestyle or differences in ambition. Allen, though deeply in love, could be selfish in his creativity. He wrote films for himself and Keaton, sometimes making her feel like part of the work rather than an equal partner. The greatest tension was geographical and career differences. Keaton wanted to soar, while Alan anchored himself in the familiar world. She once said, "We loved each other, but sometimes it felt like a tragic comedy." The climax came in 1972, when The Godfather called Keaton to California. She had to choose between love in New York and a golden opportunity in Hollywood. Alan did not want to follow her, and Keaton, heartbroken, decided to go. They parted amicably, quietly, with only whispered regrets. Keaton returned to The Godfather, where she met Al Pacino and began an on-and-off romance that lasted 15 years. But for Alan, that separation was like a deep wound. After breaking up, they did not become enemies but lifelong friends, a rare friendship that withstood Hollywood's storms. They continued to collaborate in 6 more films: Annie Hall, when Keaton won the Oscar for Best Actress; Interiors, 1978; Manhattan, 1979; Radio Days, 1987, and even Manhattan Murder Mystery, 1993, when Alan called Keaton to replace Mia Farrow amid a major scandal. Keaton was always his #1 audience. Alan wrote, "I don't read film reviews, I only care about Diane's opinion." She publicly defended him, even when Dylan Farrow's abuse allegations arose in 1992. In 2018, during #MeToo, Keaton tweeted, "Woody Allen is my friend and I still trust him." She compared him to her father. "He's the strongest person I've ever met." As for Woody Allen, after their breakup, he plunged into more complicated relationships. He began with Mia Farrow in 1980, collaborating on 13 films. But the relationship ended in 1992 when Farrow discovered he was having an affair with her adopted daughter, Soon-Yi Previn, then 21. The scandal, accompanied by child abuse allegations from Dylan Farrow, caused Allen's career to falter. He denied everything but gradually lost Hollywood support. Yet Keaton remained by him, even accepting the Cecil B. DeMille Award on his behalf in 2014, calling him a genius. Allen continued making films in Europe, married Soon-Yi in 1997, and lived a private life in Paris. When Keaton passed at age 79, Allen was shocked and deeply pained. Now 89, Allen still lives with Soon-Yi, but his tribute revealed his regret. She was the most wonderful woman on the planet. Their love did not end in separation, but lives on through immortal films. If Woody was her soulmate, then Warren Beatty was Hollywood's bad boy.
I just don't know how to say it other than to say that there was this sweet anguish of love that I felt when I saw your face in a moment shared in time together. Thank you, Warren, and congratulations.
Diane had once rejected Beatty's marriage proposal to live alone, having suffered too many disappointments. Warren Beatty was the man Diane had secretly admired for years, ever since watching Splendor in the Grass in 1961. When they met, Keaton, 32, was at the peak of her career with an Oscar from Annie Hall, while Beatty, 41, was Hollywood's romance icon with a long list of lovers from Natalie Wood to Julie Christie.
Didn't I say I'd be back at the end of the week?
The end of the week is Friday.
The end of the week is Friday, Saturday's not the end of the week anymore, huh?
Jack, you said you'd be back Tuesday.
What difference does it make? What do you think I've been doing?
They met through a mutual friend in theater, and Beatty was immediately captivated by Keaton's quirkiness, intelligence, and radiant smile. Beatty invited her to dinner, and a passionate romance began, lasting about 5 years, interspersed with private flights and romantic evenings by the sea. Their love ignited when Beatty cast Keaton as Louise Bryant in Reds, 1981, a film he wrote, directed, and starred in. On set, the chemistry between them was like fire. Keaton as the strong social activist, Beatty as the ambitious journalist John Reed. The intimate scenes, especially heated arguments, seemed to mirror real life. They traveled Europe together, where Beatty gave her lavish gifts and spoke of his political dreams. The years together were full of passion and adventure. Beatty, a romantic at heart, once flew from Los Angeles to New York just to hold Keaton's hand on a plane because she was afraid to fly. He sat beside me the whole trip, kissed me goodbye, then took the next flight back, Keaton recalled, while Beatty whispered deep stories about life. However, tension crept in due to personality differences. Beatty, notoriously perfectionist, often controlled everything, from film scripts to date schedules, making Keaton, who loved freedom and independence, feel stifled. So when Warren proposed marriage, Keaton refused outright. Keaton longed for an equal relationship, where she could pursue her career without being constrained by Beatty's check-in calls. He, though deeply in love, was obsessed with work and afraid of commitment. His long list of lovers sometimes made Keaton wonder if she was the last one. Small arguments about lifestyle, Beatty anchored in old Hollywood, Keaton seeking new exploration, gradually accumulated. Finally, in 1984, they broke up over a dramatic moment involving a photograph. Keaton, tearful, left with a broken heart but no resentment. Their 5-year romance ended, but differences in control and freedom caused its collapse, leaving beautiful memories tinged with regret. After their breakup, they did not become enemies but remained close friends, a testament to their enduring chemistry. 2 years later, in 2005, rumors spread like wildfire. Keanu Reeves had broken up with his girlfriend Lynn Collins, whom he met on the lake house, to pursue Diane Keaton.
Yeah, no. I mean, obviously, me neither. I mean, that was a lot of crying in there, lots of laughing and crying. And, well, we had some really, I mean, let's be frank. It was really good times.
It was good time.
You and Jack. Oh,
At this point, Keanu, just turned 40 and facing a midlife crisis, was drawn to Diane's intelligence and charm, 19 years his senior. They were seen together at events, Diane often visiting Keanu's Los Angeles home, and they spoke on the phone for hours. Keanu, private about his personal life after past losses, seemed to find peace with Diane. Diane later told The Ellen DeGeneres Show in 2017, "Keanu loved me deeply. Not just a little, but a love that grew over time." They laughed together about age, with Keanu calling Diane the most interesting woman I've ever met, and she teased him as the gentle guy with the sad eyes. Private moments were rumored, evenings watching classic films at Keanu's house, or Diane sending surprise gifts to him on the set of Constantine. But behind the smiles were subtle conflicts, mainly about age differences and differing lifestyles. The 19-year gap made Diane anxious. "No one wants to see me with such a young man." Keanu, meanwhile, was private and wary of commitment after past losses. Having lost his sister and girlfriend, he became emotionally distant. In 2006, when Diane jokingly told friends, "I'm going to marry Keanu. He likes older women," Keanu became angry and ended the relationship, unwilling to commit to anyone. Beyond the 3 most significant men, Diane Keaton had other side relationships. Her romantic history still holds intriguing chapters. Her first love was Robert Lesser, a music producer and teenage friend in Santa Ana, California. They met in the 1960s when Diane was an 18-year-old dreamer pursuing acting in New York. Lesser, a few years older, was her first love. "We had a New York romance full of la-di-da, evening walks, debates about art, and kisses in the rain." Diane was a whirlwind, both innocent and charming. The romance lasted about a year, ending quietly when Diane moved to Broadway. Lesser later became a film producer, and they remained friends. Another brief but artistic romance was with Edward Ruscha, a famous American pop artist in 1977. They met through the Los Angeles art scene, where Diane often wandered galleries for inspiration for her roles. Ruska, 39 at the time, and Diane, 31, shared a creative passion. He painted abstract works while she filmed Annie Hall. The romance lasted about 2 months, filled with evenings discussing art and poetry. An almost love affair was with Steve Jobs, Apple's founder, in the early 1980s. Diane and Steve met through the tech creative community in Silicon Valley, while she sought film ideas. They went on a few dates, but Diane declined a second invitation, feeling it wasn't a fit. Jobs, later married to Laureen Powell, called Diane the most interesting woman I've ever met. In her later years, Diane chose to live in a warm wooden house in Los Angeles, tending flowers, raising dogs, and giving all her love to her 2 adopted children. By the time she was over 50, Diane Keaton made a bold decision to become a single mother through adoption. After tumultuous relationships with Woody Allen, Warren Beatty, and Al Pacino, she realized she did not need a man to complete her life. Thus began her journey with her first adopted daughter, Dexter Keaton, born in 1995, whom Diane welcomed from a reputable California adoption agency. Holding Dexter in her arms in her Beverly Hills home, Diane knew she had found a new light in life. Becoming a mother at 50 was far from easy, especially for a busy star like Diane. She was filming The First Wives Club and Marvin's Room, yet still made time for Dexter, from late-night feedings to bright morning playtimes. In 2001, when Dexter was 6, Diane decided to expand her family, adopting a boy, Duke Keaton, born in 2000. At 55, she faced psychological evaluations, sworns, and strict checks, but her love for her children carried her through. Duke, passionate about photography from a young age, and Dexter, fond of animals, grew up in a home filled with laughter, where Diane often wore masculine suits and played poker with her children. Diane's happiness as a mother was something she never stopped praising. Having children is more important than anything I've ever done. Despite worries about her age, fearing she might not have the health or time, moments like holding Dexter asleep or watching Duke photograph Kobe Bryant at a Lakers game in 2009 made her feel young again. Diane raised her 2 children away from the Hollywood spotlight, allowing them the freedom to pursue their passions. Dexter chose veterinary technology, graduating from Carrington College, while Duke pursued music and photography. "They don't care about my work, and that's very healthy," Diane proudly shared. She hired a reliable nanny, Sandra, and turned her home into a place full of memories, from swimming trips to family movie nights. The relationship between Diane and her 2 children was a symphony of unconditional love. Dexter, now 29, once posted on Instagram on Mother's Day 2014, "I'm grateful to be adopted by such a strong, beautiful woman like my mom." In 2021, when Dexter married Jordan White in a romantic Hawaii wedding, Diane, in her signature cream suit, shone like a mother and best friend combined. Duke, 25, more reserved but always supportive, joined the family at the book club premiere in 2018. He once wrote on social media, "Happy birthday to the best sister. Even if I'm annoying, I still love you." Such words of affection show that Diane was not only a mother, but also a tremendous source of inspiration for her children. Throughout her life, Diane Keaton seemed to always choose solitude. Not because she was unloved, but because she had loved too deeply too many times. The men who passed through her life left deep marks, a touch of passion, a bit of incompleteness, and wounds that never fully healed. After each romance, Diane quietly withdrew, learning to laugh alone, dine alone, and write in her journal to converse with herself. She once said in an interview, "I'm not lonely, I just no longer have the courage to start again." Especially after her 15-year relationship with Al Pacino ended, Diane Keaton seemed to close a door in her heart. She no longer wanted to love anyone else, nor did she crave a home or a wedding. For Diane, her love with Pacino was a chapter both beautiful and painful, so much so that nothing could follow it. "I once thought I would marry him," Diane said in an interview, "but perhaps our love was born only to exist in memory." From then on, she devoted all her energy to her work, to art, and to her adopted children, as a way to fill the void Pacino left behind. Friends said that, though many had professed their love, Diane always gently declined. She laughed and said her heart had retired long ago. For Diane, love was no longer something to seek, but something that had come, shone brightly, and then left, leaving a gentle yet everlasting echo. The name Al Pacino remained a silent mark in her life, unspoken but ever present. In her later years, her daughter Dexter once revealed in an interview that her mother still kept a small framed photo on the bedside table, a picture of Diane and Pacino smiling brightly behind the scenes of The Godfather. "Mom never talked much," Dexter said, "but I've seen her hold that photo, smiling for a long time, as if time rewound and she was that girl again, in love for the first time." For Diane, it was the first love she truly wanted to marry, and also the last time she dared to dream of a wedding. She lived her life amid the glittering lights of Hollywood, adored by millions, yet her heart belonged to only one person. When Diane passed, people said that photo remained by her bedside, worn at the edges, but the faces of the two still radiant. A love never fully realized, yet enduring, like the gentle light Diane left in the world. It all came to an end on a day in October 2025, when the film world was shocked to hear that Diane Keaton had died at age 79 at a hospital in Santa Monica, California. Her death was sudden, just days after being admitted for an acute illness. Her family, including her two adopted children, Dexter and Duke, kept the information private. The death certificate later confirmed the primary cause as bacterial pneumonia, a dangerous condition in which the lungs fill with fluid and pus, leading to rapid respiratory failure. At 79, Diane no longer had the strength to fight the illness, and it claimed her within just a few short days. Diane's final journey was quiet, much like the years she lived after the spotlight faded. Close friends, like musician Carol Bayer Sager, said that a few weeks earlier she had noticed Diane unusually thin, likely due to weight loss after leaving Los Angeles because of wildfires. She was very thin, but still radiant with that smile. On the morning of October 11th, the Los Angeles Fire Department received an emergency call from her Beverly Hills home, and Diane was immediately taken to the hospital. Her closest family, Dexter, Duke, and a few friends, stayed by her side, shielding her from the media's attention. No one expected that a star who had survived skin cancer at 20 and bulimia in her youth would pass away so swiftly. Bacterial pneumonia, the cause of Diane's death, was a silent enemy. The air sacs in her lungs were infected, causing coughing, high fever, chills, and severe shortness of breath. At 79, her body could not withstand the rapidly progressing illness. Though there was no information about serious underlying conditions, past health issues such as basal cell skin cancer or squamous cell carcinoma might have made her more vulnerable. Diane had been open about her health battles, especially bulimia, an eating disorder that obsessed her with stage-era weight. However, there is no evidence these issues directly led to her death. Her health declined very suddenly, shocking everyone, a close source told Deadline. In her final days, Diane remained serene, surrounded by the love of her family. Though her departure was sudden, Diane left a radiant mark until the very end. Just a year prior, she appeared in Summer Camp 2024, playing a woman rediscovering youthful joy with friends. Though not a masterpiece, the film still carried Diane's signature style, humorous, warm, and full of life. Colleagues like Woody Allen, who called her his only audience, and Nancy Meyers, who said she made everything better, expressed their grief. Francis Ford Coppola wrote, "She was the embodiment of creativity." Diane's family asked people to honor her by donating to animal shelters or food banks, causes she had passionately supported throughout her life, from love for pets to helping the homeless. Her la-di-da smile, once lighting up Annie Hall, now remains a lasting memory. Before passing, in one of her final interviews, Diane Keaton revealed why she chose to remain solitary for the rest of her life. "I loved fully, perhaps too fully. In the end, I realized I didn't need a man to feel complete anymore. I just needed peace." These words were not only a confession, but also a gentle farewell to the past, to those who had walked through her life, including loves that never closed. Diane ended her life on her own terms, with the freedom she had pursued her entire life. And perhaps that is why millions of fans around the world shed tears upon hearing of her passing. A woman who truly lived for herself, even at the cost of loneliness. Do you think Diane was happy with that choice? Leave your thoughts below. And if you cherish Diane Keaton, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue exploring the stories behind Hollywood legends, where the glamour always comes with very human emotions.